Hello students, welcome to the lecture on maintenance, and after the lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Define the term employee welfare, describe the health and safety, explain the workers' participation in management, understand employee empowerment. Let's start with a brief introduction to maintenance. Human resource management is a process concerned with the management of human energies and competencies for achieving organizational goals through acquisition, development, utilization and maintenance of a competent and committed workforce in a changing environment. The term maintenance means to keep the equipment in operational condition or repair it to its operational mode. The main objective of the maintenance is to have increased availability of a production systems with increased safety and optimized cost. Maintenance management involves managing the functions of maintenance. As the engineering equipment becomes sophisticated and expensive to produce and maintain, maintenance management has to face even more challenging situations to maintain effectively such equipments in industrial environment. Let's now study about the overview of employee welfare. Welfare includes anything that is done for the comfort and the improvement of employees and is provided over and above the wages. Welfare helps in keeping the morale and the motivation of the employees high so as to retain the employees for longer duration. The welfare measures need not be in monetary terms only but in any kind of form. Employee welfare includes monitoring of working conditions, creation of industrial harmony through infrastructure for health, industrial relations and insurance against disease, accident and unemployment for the workers and their families. Labor welfare entails all those activities of employer which are directed towards providing the employees with certain facilities and services in addition to wages or salaries. Labor welfare has the following objectives: to provide better life and health to the workers, to make the workers happy and satisfied. We will now discuss the basic features of labor welfare. Labor welfare includes various facilities, services and amenities provided to workers for improving their health, efficiency, economic betterment and social status. Welfare measures are in addition to regular wages and other economic benefits available to workers due to legal provisions and collective bargaining. Labor welfare schemes are flexible and ever-changing. New welfare measures are added to the existing ones from time to time. Welfare measures may be introduced by the employers, government, employees, or by any social or charitable agency. The purpose of labor welfare is to bring about the development of the whole personality of the workers to make a better workforce. Let's analyze the important benefits of welfare measures. They provide better physical and mental health to workers and thus promote a healthy work environment. Facilities like housing schemes, medical benefits and education and recreation facilities for workers' families, they help in raising the standards of living. This makes workers to pay more attention towards work and thus increase their productivity. Employers get stable labor force by providing welfare facilities. Workers take active interest in their jobs and work with the feeling of involvement and participation. Employee welfare measures increase the productivity of organization and promote healthy industrial relations, thereby maintaining the industrial peace. The social evils prevalent among the laborers, such as substance abuse, etc., are reduced to a greater extent by the welfare policies. We will now discuss about health and safety. The Act applies to all employers, self-employed and employees in all places of work. It also places duties on designers, suppliers, manufacturers and other concerned with work activities. The duties of an employer under the 2005 Act: general duties of the employers is information to the employees, instruction, training and supervision of the employees, emergencies, serious and imminent dangers, protective and preventive measures, hazard identification and risk assessment, safety statement, cooperation, health surveillance and medical fitness to work, safety representative, employee consultation, penalization. Let's now understand the general duties of the employer. To ensure the safety, health and welfare at work of his or her employees, to manage and conduct work activities in such a way as to ensure the safety, health and welfare at work of all employees. to manage and conduct work activities in such a way as to prevent any improper conduct or behavior likely to endanger employees, to ensure safety and the prevention of risk arising from the use of articles or substances or the exposure to noise, vibration, radiation, or any other ionizing agent, to provide systems of work that are planned, organized, performed, maintained, and revised as appropriate so as to be safe and risk-free, to provide and maintain facilities and arrangements for the welfare of the employees at work, to provide information, instruction, training, and supervision where necessary, to implement the safety, health, and welfare measures necessary for the protection of the employees as identified through risk assessments, and ensuring that these measures take account of changing circumstances and the general principles of prevention specified in the Schedule 3 of the Act, to provide protective clothing and equipment where risks cannot be eliminated or adequately controlled, to prepare and revise emergency plans and procedures, to report accident and dangerous occurrences to the relevant authority, to obtain where necessary the services of a competent person for the purpose of ensuring safety and health at work, to ensure that all safety measures take into account both fixed-term and temporary workers, and that any measures taken do not involve financial cost to his or her employees. As regards the place of work concerned, the employer must ensure the design, provision, and maintenance of a safe, risk-free place of work, safe means of access to and egress from it, plant and machinery that are safe and without risk to health. Let's study about the instruction, training, and supervision of the employees. The employer must ensure that all instruction, training, and supervision is provided in a manner, form, and language that is reasonably likely to be understood. Employees receive during time off from their work but without loss of pay adequate health, safety, and welfare training, including in particular information and instruction relating to the specific task to be performed and measures to be taken in an emergency. The employee's capabilities in relation to safety, health, and welfare are taken into account. In the case of a class or classes of sensitive employees or groups of employees exposed to risk expressly provided for in the relevant statutory provisions, the employees are protected against the dangers that specifically affect them. Training must be adapted to take account of new or changed risks in the workplace. Training must be provided on recruitment, when an employee is transferred or tasks are changing, on the introduction of new or changed work equipment or a work system, on the introduction of new technology. Let's now discuss about emergencies and serious and imminent dangers. These plans should provide measures for first aid, firefighting, and premises evacuation, taking into account one of the nature of the work being carried out and the size of the place of the work. Arrange necessary contacts with appropriate emergency services. Designate employees who are required to implement these plans, procedures, etc. Ensure that all designated employees have adequate training and equipment available to them. In the event of the emergency or a serious and imminent danger, the employer must inform all employees of the risk and steps taken to protect them, refrain from requiring employees to carry out or resume work where there is still a threat to their safety, ensure that in the absence of appropriate guidance or instruction, the employee must take appropriate steps to avoid the consequences of the danger, to take action and give instruction for employees to stop work and remove themselves to a safe place. Ensure that an employee who leaves the place of work in the case of emergency is not penalized because of such action. Ensure that access to specifically hazardous areas is restricted only to employees who have received appropriate training. Now let us talk about the protective and the preventive measures. The employer must appoint an adequate number of competent persons to perform the functions relating to the protection of the employees and give them adequate time and means to perform those functions. Make arrangements for the cooperation between the competent person and the safety representative. Give preference to competent persons within their employment when appointing a competent person. Now we will have a look into the hazard identification and risk assessment. The employer must identify all hazards in the workplace, keep a written assessment of the risk associated with each hazard known as risk assessment, Review the risk assessment if there is a significant change to the matters it relates to, or there is any other reason to believe that it is no longer valid. Implement any control measures or improvements which are identified by the risk assessment. Let's analyze safety statements. The safety statements should specify the hazards identified and the risks assessed, the protective and preventive measures taken and the resources provided, the emergency plans and the procedures, the duties of the employees, the names, job titles and positions of anyone assigned with safety responsibility. The safety statement should be brought to attention of employees at least annually or when there is any changes, newly recruited employees upon the commencement of their employment, other persons at the place of work who may be exposed to any specific risk. The employer must review the safety statement if there is a significant change to the matters it relates to, there is any other reason to believe that it is no longer valid, and inspector directs that the statement be amended.
Safety statement. The basis for the management of health and safety in your workplace is the written safety statement. The safety statement is your program for protecting the safety and health of your employees and others who may be affected by your work. Preparing a safety statement will not in itself prevent accidents and ill health at work. But by making a commitment to promoting health and safety and specifying the arrangements and the resources you have put in place, the safety statement plays a vital part in managing health and safety in your workplace. Step 1. You should complete your risk assessments by identifying the hazards in your workplace, assessing the risks from those hazards, and detailing your control measures. Step 2. Then compile your safety statement, making sure the safety statement covers the specific aspects of your workplace. Your safety statement should contain a health and safety policy, which is your commitment to managing health and safety and the manner in which this will be done. This policy should be signed by you. Your safety statement should also detail the various arrangements, facilities and resources which will be made available by you to protect safety, health and welfare in your workplace. For example, names of those with responsibilities for health and safety, employees' responsibilities, the safety representative name, if you have one, arrangements for consultation with employees, first aid, welfare, emergency procedures, contractor and visitor arrangements. Step 3. Your safety statement is finalized by attaching your completed risk assessments. Your employees must be made aware of the contents of your safety statement.
Now we will review the duty of employers to cooperate. Where employers share a place of work, they must cooperate in complying with and implementing the relevant statutory provisions. They must coordinate their actions in relation to the prevention and the protection of the employees. They should inform each other or the respective employees, safety representatives, etc. of all risks, including the exchange of safety statement and the relevant extracts relating to hazards and risks. Let's have a look into the health surveillance and medical fitness to work. Employers are required to ensure that health surveillance appropriate to the risk that may be incurred in the place of work is available to all the employees. Employees are required to inform their employer or their employer's registered medical practitioner if they are unfit to carry out a prescribed work activity. If an employer is noticed of the unfitness of the employee, they must immediately take appropriate action to comply with the general duties of the employers to ensure the safety, health and welfare of all the employees at work. Now let's understand about penalizing employees. Employers are prohibited from penalizing, defined as dismissal, demotion, transfer, imposition of duties, coercion or intimidation, or threatening to penalize employees who are performing any duty, exercising rights, or who make any complaints relating to the safety and the health, or who gives evidence in enforcement proceedings. The dismissal or the penalization in such manner can be deemed to be an unfair dismissal within the meaning of the Unfair Dismissals Acts of 1997 and 2001. And employees may also complain to the Rights Commissioner that their employer has penalized them for exercising their rights under the safety and health legislation. Let's now learn what are the duties as an employee under the Act. As an employee while at work, you must comply with all the relevant statutory provisions. Take reasonable care to protect the safety of themselves and others who might be affected by their acts and omissions. Ensure they are not under the influence of an intoxicant or in such a state that they might be a danger to themselves or to the others. Submit to reasonable appropriate testing if reasonably required by the employer. The Act gives scope for regulations to be made that provide for employees to undergo tests for intoxicants to be carried out by or under the supervision of a registered medical practitioner. Cooperate with his or her employer so far as is necessary to enable compliance with the relevant statutory provisions. Not engage in any improper conduct or dangerous behavior. Attend the training and undergo such assessments as may be necessary. Make the correct use of any article or substance provided for use or for the protection of the employee, including the protective clothing and the equipment. Report to his or her employer as soon as practicable any work being carried out which might endanger themselves or others. Any defects in the place of work, the system of work, any article or substance which might endanger themselves or others, or any contravention of the relevant statutory provisions of which he or she is aware. Notify the employer or the employer's nominated registered practitioner if they become aware that they are suffering from any disease or physical or mental impairment which affects their performance of work activities that could give rise to the risk to the safety, health and welfare of persons at work. The duty is on the employee to protect themselves and others. Let's have a look into the penalties for breaches of health and safety legislation. Most offences, including any breaches of regulations under the 2005 Act, may be tried either in summary proceedings in the district courts, where the max penalty is $4,100.10 per charge, and or up to 6 months imprisonment or an indictment in the circuit court, where the maximum penalty is $3 million, and or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years. The Health and Safety Authority may compile and publish a list of names and addresses and a description of the business or activities of every person who has been fined or given any other penalty by a court in relation to safety and health legislation, on whom a prohibition notice has been served, against whom a High Court order was made regarding the use of a place of work. The Act also empowers an inspector to issue on-the-spot fines where he or she has reasonable grounds for believing that a person is committing or has committed certain prescribed offences under the occupational safety and health legislation. The Act allows for fines of up to $1,366.70 per offence. On-the-spot fines can apply to employers, employees, persons in control of workplaces, importers and suppliers, etc., all duty holders under the Act. Now we will understand workers' participation in management. Workers' participation in management is an essential ingredient of the industrial democracy. The concept of workers' participation in management is based on the human relations approach to management, which brought about a new set of values to labor and management. Traditionally, the concept of workers' participation in management, WPM, refers to the participation of non-managerial employees in the decision-making process of the organization. Workers' participation is also known as labor participation or employee participation in management. Now we will have a look into the features of workers' participation in management. Participation means mental and emotional involvement rather than mere physical presence. Workers participate in management not as individuals but collectively as a group through their representatives. Workers' participation in management may be formal or informal. In both the cases, it is a system of communication and consultation whereby employees express their opinions and contribute to the managerial decisions. Let's now review the objectives of workers' participation in management. To establish industrial democracy, to build the most dynamic human resources, to satisfy the workers' social and esteem needs, to strengthen the labor management cooperation and thus maintain industrial peace and harmony, to promote increased productivity for the advantage of the organization, workers and the society at large. Its psychological objective is to secure full recognition of the workers. Now let's learn about the importance of workers' participation in management. It is a unique motivational power and a great psychological value. Peace and harmony between workers and the management. Workers, they get to see how their actions would contribute to the overall growth of the company. They tend to view the decisions as their own and are more enthusiastic in their implementation. Participation makes them more responsible. They become more willing to take initiative and come out with cost-saving suggestions and growth-oriented ideas. Now we'll study about employee empowerment. Employee empowerment is a term that is used to express the ways in which non-managerial staff members can make decisions without consulting their bosses or managers. These decisions can be small or large, depending upon the degree of power with which the company wishes to invest employees. Employee empowerment can begin with training and converting a whole company to an empowerment model. Conversely, it might merely mean giving employees the ability to make some decisions on their own. Employee empowerment means that an employee is given a chance to be enterprising, take risks without compromising with the organizational goals, mission and vision. His say in the process of decision making is increased. This can be for one particular individual or for the entire organization. In the latter case, it is called participative management. Now let's analyze the process of employee empowerment. Understand and embrace the idea that employee empowerment is a natural result of this process. The most important concept that guides participatory management is the idea that employees' skills should be utilized at different levels in a variety of unique ways. When employees are included in the process of brainstorming, skill sharing and active leadership, chances are much greater that they will also be willing to share power. Discuss with team members the concept and advantages of empowerment. Spend adequate time addressing the change in roles from those who formerly only carried out decisions to those who now make them. Provide training in brainstorming techniques as well as other kinds of participatory interaction. Instead of instructing each team individually, begin the peer learning process by having team members who have already gone through the process share this experience with the others. The team will learn the benefits of the employee empowerment from their peers, while seeking proof that these techniques really do work. Now in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. Welfare includes anything that is done for the comfort and the improvement of employees and is provided over and above the wages. The Safety, Health and Welfare at Work Act 2005 were brought in to make further provision for the safety, health and welfare of persons at work. Workers' participation in management implies mental and emotional involvement of the workers in the management of the enterprise. The very logic behind providing welfare schemes is to create efficient, healthy, loyal and satisfied labor force for the organization. Manufacturers, importers and suppliers of equipment, machinery, articles or substances used at work have the duty of ensuring safety and health concerning the use of the materials that they produce or supply. Employee empowerment is a term that is used to express the ways in which non-managerial staff members can make decisions without consulting their bosses or the managers.